Good morning, good morning, good morning. I haven't done any videos for a couple of days, which is good. I think I said I was gonna not do them. I'm hitting so many weird points, which is made so much more interesting by the fact that I've randomly documented it in quite high detail and weirdly like kind of surprised myself. And now I'm just like, even so the urge this morning was to not do anything because I was like, I don't know whether I can now. I spent a year criticizing something quite heavily. I'm not talking about the vaccine, I'm talking about the kind of this trans thing, only to then kind of find, and this is the funniest thing. This is why like I almost don't want to do anything on any of these. But this is way different because especially now, I feel like people would just be like, oh, you just jumped on this thing. And that's what worries me. That's the fucking part of it that worries me is no, I didn't. No, I fucking, and don't get me wrong, the things I criticize, I'm still pretty critical of. But I think there's something else going on with this. And the more I look, because what it is, like, it's almost that I opened this door, I allowed this presence out, which I didn't do. I hadn't been allowing it out at all, unless it was kind of like an over-the-top kind of mocking thing. And I think this is where this is especially the really extreme symptoms. I think we've got some symptomology of some, I feel like it's like some really, really underlying problems going on in the world. And this is a way that it manifests. And for me personally, it's been very profound. Like I literally, just the act of letting it in, of allowing it, and just being like, whatever, I'll go full. Like I just treated it like an acting project, but found, I don't know, there was substantial foundation there. I was like, well, this is a thing. This is a person. There's a person in here. And in a way, they've been, and this was the profound thing, it's like they've been extremely neglected. And the way they've been neglected, and this is by me, and this is where I'm talking about, this is getting profound. And this isn't, look, there's all kinds of things going on. There's some type of, like, there's a sexual aspect to it, there's an emotional aspect to it, there's a physical aspect to it. There's lots of things going on. And even now you can probably tell, like, this is my presenting persona. I've been doing it for 2.5 years, so it's pretty stable. But this other side, and I just probably won't be here because I just fucking hate it here. I hate it online. I think you're all like deeply fucking ill in one way or another. Except the select few that do interact. But I think if you're watching any of these things and they're not interacting, I think you've got serious fucking issues. Especially if you know me. I'm not a fucking celebrity. You can't. I'm fucking basically being tortured, and I have had that happen to me. And you're watching and thinking it's funny, and then thinking it's funny that it changes again when that's the obvious thing that would happen, you fucking weirdos. So that isn't to anyone who I speak to in person, that isn't to you. But if you're watching this and you haven't really spoken to me, then you're a fucking weirdo. And I just want you to know that. Basically this person, this female entity that lives inside of me, and this has opened up all types of things. Honestly, I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, am I both? Was I modified at birth or some shit? Or was it my dad? Was my dad that critical of women and gay people that I've just kind of fucking morphed into this strange thing? Was it I had an older sister who was pretty, she was 10 years older and she was a real role model for me. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I've always been, I've always been around women like that, and that's why I've always liked women. And it does seem strange now. It seems like I've actually just been hanging out with women. I have a very masculine side, but it's in a very feminine way. So I'm a very masculine girl, I think. And then I think, then I go to the point where I'm like, does any of it really matter? Which is where they're at. And so when you get to these things, when you realize because I've been opposing a lot of this, you get to the arguments, and when you're actually in them, you're kind of like, whoa, it's not clear. No, a lot of the things, if I even hear someone now, I'm kind of like, hang on a second, you should hear my story first. And so immediately at that point, so the vaccine, I knew that was never going to happen. The vaccine is built on years of foundation. And I just think the demographic broke down. It's if you're living, maybe a square kilometre of the CBD, you have to get it. I think you can do that. I think you can, because just the environment's way different. And then you can shift your life. You should be allowed to move out to the country if you don't want to get a vaccine and change your life. I think you need density, risk assessment based on cities. So there we go. Do you know what I mean? And then you do what you want and I'll do what I want, and I will never move into the city if you do those things. Do you get it? That's the kind of thing. You can't, this blanket across the country, this fucking talking in Aboriginal to get it to Aboriginals that are out on state. I think that was what did you in. Anyway, keep going on the girly stuff. So the biggest things that don't have anything to do with mental is I definitely have movement blockages. This is what I have known for a while. I've known that these exist in the feminine kind of arena for a while. And so I've been playing with this for 2 years. It was almost like this place I wouldn't go physically with my movement. And then that would open up this. It's almost like the way, and this has just been really interesting in a movement, just to basically in that. So I just looked at it as a dancer or as an actor or a performer. The feminine movements it's way different. So it's almost anti-male. So it's where males will push, that women kind of extend. They do everything in this different way. And I think maybe that could be part of it. Could be just a slight obsession to do with movement. And that's an avenue I go. But then even then, it seems like this is the strangest part. And this is where I get really worried. These movements that I'm unlocking, and you got to remember that it's say 25, huge brain injury potentially. So that's a weird checkpoint along the way. But these movements, they are For me now, they're feeling very feminine. They're very like kind of erratic and jumpy. Weed is helping amazingly. I'm really annoyed. I'm like, damn it, I just would like some weed. Because it's really painful. It's like my whole pelvis is breaking up this locked off section all the way. And that's like this movement like this in my pelvis and then all the way up my lower spine. And this is everyone's pain. So this is like the opioid crisis is caused by this in a funny way, because this is excruciatingly painful to do. And so what I'm getting to, I'm trying to round this all out so I give it a lot of detail. Because I don't think it's the issue that it's been broken down to, this trans, that's silly. No, there's something far larger going on than just people that are born girls. That's stupid. And this is how I know, and this is where I'm meeting the middle ground. It's very lovely. It's very lovely to meet this person that is inside of me and look after her like I've looked after lots of other women. And that's part of it. So and this is this is where I'm saying, I'm like, I do feel like a fucking prisoner of war, or just a prisoner in general. I was put in jail. I feel like a slave by the women in my life, including my mother, my children's mother, my ex-girlfriends. Like, this is craziness. The things I was trying to provide are like my wildest fantasy, and I have them in my sights, and it's never good enough. It is a fucking just bullshit thing. And that just can't go on. And maybe it's to do with my particular situation. Maybe I'm like lopsided. I'm overwhelmed by too many females, but I don't think it is. I think it's society in general. I think this permeates all the way through our government systems. And I think this is the safe option for this to manifest in, as opposed to violent and things like that, because that will be shut down. So it's hard to say whether it's not that. Whether I'm being critical and questioning these things, knowing that I've done everything right, not everything, but like most things, and then still getting treated this way, I'm like, it's the only option left. I can't play up. I can't kill people. I can't fucking, beat people up. It doesn't work. I didn't do any of that and still got treated like I was, and that was terrible. You just get dehumanized as soon as you're doing anything like that. And so this really is my only option, which that's hard to tell whether that's playing into it. But some of the movements that will feel really feminine, if I do them as an adult man, they will feel really feminine. They will look really feminine. They will there's this endorphin feeling that I will get you. It's like the typical like this that women do. All these, I think this is like deep. I don't know. Anyway, I won't get into detail. But I think that's just how I was when I was young. I was very, very athletic. I was very adventurous. I would go and run in the bush. I would do all this. I would constantly be going. I would constantly be jumping around. I'd be in our lounge room doing circus shit on chairs and flipping them, and I'd never stopped, ever. And we were kind of allowed, no, we weren't. No, we were pretty much constantly. But we had bush, so I would just run off in the bush and do whatever I wanted. And so accessing these, re-accessing these, it's almost like I go through feminine and then I find myself as a younger person. And that's, that's amazing. Some of the other things going on, because I'll map it all out like this, is, I think there's something in it that I feel, there's something this is part of huge. It removes the danger that I think women have had over me, because I'm finding that in myself. And that's huge. That's been massive. This is kind of where it's like, I was so much into women, so much surrounded by women. I know all the things they're doing. Like, I know all this self-love and all this, like, you've got a fucking DeWalt toolbox filled with apparatus that can sexually pleasure you. And there's all these kind of new feminist kind of ideas around sex and monogamy and all this stuff. It's like, cool, okay, just don't forget about the dads, because the dads take on this other role that is thrust upon them, and there's no like, it's like I was on some journey. It's like, no, I was just all of a sudden responsible for the children. And I think there's this, as a dad in this society, in the fucking everything, it's like you just get treated like shit, and I'm fucking sick of it. And it's like, you're not good. Nothing about any of you is that good. There's a fucking bazillion of you. You know what I mean? And most of you are fucking like overweight, or you got fucking issues with your fucking personality issues. You're fucking entitled. You're selfish. You're fucking an alcoholic. And then it's like, and then your body, it's like, all right, you've got one thing that I don't have. Like, it's this fucking weird other thing. And honestly, what I realized, it's funny how this happened. I'm so glad this is deep, because it makes this hard to find. There's a girl I follow. She's actually a musician, but she's also quite gorgeous. And there was a funny, like, she did a post with her legs in it, which quite a lot of women do. It's just their legs at a beach or something like that. And it does stimulate. I go like, oh, wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's like, whatever. And then I just shaved my legs and I was like, my legs are better. And they are. And it's not like, I feel like it's almost like evening back. Somehow I think women in this digital sexual era, like the last 15 years, got this edge, and that is being destroyed by just evolution or the environment, or just accepting, like, becoming familiar. Because one, they're just going to be pretend. Two, like, you're never going to know. I'm actually contemplating just doing a weird Instagram page just with me not showing that, like, and I guarantee I could probably monetize that, and I kind of want to do it as a trial to see how absurd this is. And it's kind of like on myself, it's like I was so susceptible to this, you know, and it's just like, it's destroyed my life, because there's something really potent about women at the moment, that they're not acting collectively for any type of improvement of the world. They're all just selfishly acting out of some biological effect, that if men were doing that, we'd be living in hell. Like, all men are kind of conditioned to not live to their, and when they are doing that, they know, they're like, oh, I'm drinking, I'm going out, I'm being bad, I'm doing this. But women are just like, they're celebrating their negativity, and they haven't realized. And I think this is where I'm kind of making a leap into, like, the more trans ideology stuff. And it's like, yeah, it pisses women off. If I got fucking dressed up, you know what I mean, and looked good, they would be pissed off because they're jealous. And it's because they're jealous, especially if they've got kids. They're like, oh my God, you've got kids, you've just abandoned your responsibility. Even if they've got a 2-year-old and I've got a fucking 17-year-old, it's like, no, honey, I did my responsibility for 17 years and got put in jail for it, you cunts. You know, like, that was my thanks at the end of the fucking line. You've all blown up your thing. I don't trust any of you to do shit. Anything you say, you will never do. You won't make one sacrifice to live a life that isn't fucking in chains or in slavery. And you're perpetually steering the country away from freedom. So it's like, no, don't you fucking dare get jealous if I fucking can look pretty at the end of that, because it's a fuckload of work, and it's work not getting supported the whole time. Whereas like a woman, you put it something up, you get supported the whole time. You get this like beautiful thing of whatever, and I just don't. It's hard to know whether it's ever been. It's like, is this the worst it's ever been, or is this the best it's ever been? And that's a tricky kind of thing to know. As far as the feminine thing goes, I think where I'm landing is I've always been a feminine man. Pretty much, like, I have been a straight man that is more feminine. And I think that's where I had to get so masculine that I almost lost this, and I'm having to find that person again. And it's because all my like structures around me that I'd been leveling myself off to kind of grow and to be able to deal with what I was doing, they've all fucked me over, like catastrophically, like where they can no longer ever be trusted again. So these are people that I've assisted up, like helped them out. We've kind of lived life together, whether it's my parents or my ex-partners or whatever it is. But then they've all just consistently shown that they're not going to be there. And so that requires me to build, it's like, oh, all right, well then the only people I've got to be there for are my kids. They're the ones that they get this agreement from me, so I don't want to do that to them. But may still, I don't know. So all those other people just disappear because they've only made it harder. Like they've shown like there's just no there's no care. And it's not even like, oh, it's not the same care as I've offered you. It's like, no, I've basically sacrificed huge portions of my life to help you out, and you are complaining about the smallest, tiniest little things, and you won't change anything else that doesn't, it sounds a bit whingy, but it's like we can't all go to hell together because it's uncomfortable to change direction. And so the only thing keeping this all together has been my aspiration to end up with that in the end. And now I just don't care. I have my own version of that. And then quite often, like then the model will be like, if that gets accepted, then they'll be like, oh yeah, we've always known, we've always supported you, we've just been waiting for this. And I think that's just a fucking lie. That's confusing. All right, let's try and round it out. And I'm sorry, it's got a bit lost. Yeah, but I feel because I know that's stacked a lot of my arguments was staying in this camp. I believe the language thing, like pronouns, that doesn't make sense. And this is where this started. I think Jordan almost needs to go back to pronouns to win that battle on its own, just on its own merit of that. That's nothing to do with anything else. And then I think use his psychology degree to kind of go, well, hang on, what's going on? There's potentially lots of things going on, and there's potentially lots of manifestations of this. I think there's a fashion aspect that's changing. So it's like these, whereas I was thinking the emergent kind of trans thing, I was thinking them as like phenomenons of when I was young, but they're not, because that was me. It was just different. So they're actually, there's far more of them and it's far more complicated. So whatever I was doing, being kind of highly sexual, being experimental and risky behavior, all those things, it's more likely that that's what's, which we were like rock stars. I was a rock and roll singer. Always wanted to be, always. And in that framework, it makes way more sense. But it's like, okay, why has that shifted even more? And I think it's because it's what it's always been trying to do. I think it's trying to. I actually think it's a thing to do with parents. I think it's a rebellion against fathers, maybe. And it's like, I know you love me as your son, but I want you to love me as whatever I am. And so if I'm going to be a girl, if I'm going to be really girly, then this is the ultimate. If you love me like this, you'll love me. I actually think that's what's going on. And I think the reason I didn't have as much of that, I would hide a lot of it from my dad. I had two I would keep, and that didn't always work. He knew, but in the conversations we would have, I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this," and then I'd be stuck in this other thing, and I would never really show him that. And now I don't have to because he's dead, and so I'm almost fortunate in that way. And then with my mum, it's the opposite. It's like, because my mum gets into so much fucking trouble, nothing gets her in trouble. She can do whatever. She'd burn down fucking Parliament House and they'd just be like, whereas I do anything and I get in trouble. And I'm in with my mum. It's like, well, fuck you, bitch. I can be a naughty fucking girl too and get this. And that's, I think, what's going on. And I think we've got to remember that our parents' generation are this really liberated generation. And I don't think they've actually been grateful for that, for how liberated they were, for how experimental a lot of their lifestyle is. And so that when you experiment, there's a huge opportunity for that to be wrong. And I think huge swaths of the way society is organized is built on this bullshit. And so what I'm constantly trying to find is like safe harbor. I'm like, I want to just build a house that's efficient, that doesn't need much energy, and live there and not pay much thing and kind of look after most of my stuff, and then use the skills I have to earn money and things like that. How does that fit into an economy where everyone's 30 years in debt while the money supply is running out, while all the work's running out, while all the work's changing? How do I not do all that work and then get picked off by fucking scavengers that are dying out of that system? And it's like, there is no way. The only way is to arm myself and protect myself. And this is what they're making impossible. They're building a casino next door and then they're about to shut the doors. It's like they're building a casino, a methadone clinic, and a brothel all next door. And then it's like they're all going to shut. And who's going to keep all the wandering fucking zombies from stealing all your shit? And the police aren't going to fucking do it. And so fuck, big tangent there. But what I find is, like, I think things like this, like the one thing this has been, I'm paying for it now because I'm quite sore because of mainly moving my hips in different ways and strengthening. There's like the upper section of my leg right up the top that was almost dead. I could look at it. It was almost like someone had chopped that bit and it was just like, this is all dead. This is when you see, and this is kind of what I'm obsessing about now. If you see like netball players and things, or Olympians or whatever, and I'm talking about women, their leg kind of moves like this thing from the top. Mine just didn't do that because it didn't need to. All I needed to do was sit in the car and drive and then fucking lift heavy shit. And I could do all that with that section going. And I think because of my brain injury, these things, these effects were a bit more significant. And so it just went, oh, just turn it off. You won't need it again. And that's why it takes so much stimulation in all these different ways to get that going. It feels like a lot of times I'll have to get to this fully feminine movement to be like, and I was doing it yesterday or the day before. I hit these points where I was doing these, I'd done like turns and turning, but I was like turning and then landing with torque and power, which feels like, I mean, it basically feels like I would instantly break my leg. Like I'd break my leg or break it. It just feels so vulnerable. It feels like if you grabbed your hand, hit it with a hammer, hit your arm. Like that's, but then, so I can't get there with masculinity, with like attention to detail, with care, with precision, all these things that my masculine mind, I have to get there with just go for it and fall gracefully. And that's the female thing. And that is just, I mean, I think it's because I can see it clear. It's like reading from two books. And I have to just, I probably have to apologize to the fucking trans community a little bit. I'd actually quite like to have a conversation with Jordan Peterson, because I think I can, I think I can find somewhere. I do think the surgeries, I mean, for start, I think the hormones are a really big issue. I can imagine. It's just not something I would go to. I think there's so much space for controlling your own hormones. If that was encouraged rather than endogenous, I think it's way more. They're like really strong instruments, and all of the, like, you say I was just going to try and do the best female performance. That is all subtlety. See, I can see I would have to work on my face for like 2 or 3 weeks just to get it to soften and like it more, like that's all subtlety. That's not hormones. It's subtlety of movement, subtlety of perception, subtlety of craft. I think hitting it with a sledgehammer, would miss that. The same in masculine. I think it's, masculinity is very subtle, strong masculinity. It's not the big, strong, muscly men. That can actually be, a lot of times that can appear very feminine. Again, it's subtlety to find that range. And that's where, I think we're all trying to just tell a message, and our body is a tool or an instrument or a typewriter that we have access to, and it's very expressive. This is again, I think that a lot of I think it's just bigger. I think the trans issue is a bigger issue. I think tied into it as well is this thing for communication. So I just heard this morning, they've been obsessed with watching porn and now they want to manifest that. And it's like, but they're manifesting it from the woman's perspective. That can be empathetic. That can be defined empathy. And if any, it's weird because it's almost like this argument relies on the fact that women don't enjoy sex. It's like an agreed upon lie that women are making up to get a benefit in the world. It's like, you're imitating a woman to get self-gratification, but that woman's not actually enjoying herself. So you're enjoying yourself, but she's not. And it's like, I think she's enjoying herself. I think most women are enjoying themselves more than men most of the time. And that's kind of like, and when I go into that, that's what I find. I find that like it's, and this is where you could go where it's autogynephilia or whatever it is. And it's like, it's not even that. It's like, I think there's just it's like a less, funnily enough, and I'll go with this again. Just remember, I'm just talking. I'm trying to get out a lot of detail. I'm trying to map out, paint a sketch. So if I come back and listen to this, they can go into more detail and answer questions that I might have about it. I think there is a safety in vulnerability that exists. There is an excitement in this thing. I think a lot of women. So already saying this, when I've got my place to renovate, I've got lots of work to do there, tons of stuff. I'm an extremely skilled person to be able to do that. None of that is accepted. None of that is like, it's not appreciated. It's very, unless it's just like, yeah, well, what was the last thing you did? It's not that it's there. It's not like I'm sitting there. Not like money. Say everyone knew I had $6 million. You know what I mean? They'd be like, oh yeah, he's just taking his time. He's doing this. But that's what it's like. It's like I have $6 million because I have all these skills and all these things to do it. And I actually enjoy doing it in my own pace. Whereas I think when women are doing traditionally masculine work, like building and all these things, their experience is very different. Mine is like, I have to do this, so I'm going to be good. I have to do this to be loved, so I'm going to be really good at it for my own thing, because I have to do it to pay the bills and to look after my family and to provide and all these things that you're told as a man that you're not as told as much as a woman. Whereas a woman, if they're doing those things, they're like, look at me, look how clever I am as a girl. But the same exists in the guy. But it isn't appreciated. It's expected. And this is down the line. This is everything. I get my mother, who spends most of her day in bed, who gets paid and has got paid for decades, and who lives in a house that was given to her by my father, and who has basically a live-in maid that does all the things for her. I get guilt-tripped by that woman for not doing anything almost daily while I'm recovering from like basically being paralyzed. I'd say I was at least 50% paralyzed, which is like losing one leg. If I'd lost one leg, I would be treated very differently. But because I evenly lost 50% of movement from both legs, no one fucking cares. And I think this is where we live. And this is when, and it's why, if you're a man, especially younger men, noticing this, because I think it's gotten harder. So I think they're projecting further, and this is what this trans thing is. If they are getting surgery, that's how much attention they're needing to this wound that they have, is to do all these things on top of it. Because that's like I'm saying, it's like, if I'd lost a leg, everyone would be like, oh, he lost a leg, poor bugger. Oh, he's getting on and doing it. But it's not like that with losing movement in both legs. It's treated as skiving or as all these other things. It's like, no, we have, most of the people in the world have some type of equivalent thing to that. They've lost something that you can't see, and they're in a lot of pain because of it. And I think we're only, like, we're just fucking retarded as far as everything goes. And the reason we can't see it is because we're constantly whipped by the world, whipped by society to keep going. And then you get to the point, you're like, well, that thing that we're told to keep going on is failing massively. And then it also almost becomes your responsibility, if you know that, to not participate anymore, to be like, fuck this. I'm not participating in that, and I'm going to build myself a structure that you can't touch at the other end. And that's basically solely what my job is. That's what these videos are. It's like a collection of me going, your thing was failing, you made a thing that didn't work, you kept pushing the machine and it's going to break, and I built a fucking thing, and I don't want you coming back to me when all of that fails. And this is why I spent years doing this. But also this is like, well, I can't fucking talk about really the trans issue. I can't talk about it from the perspective of someone who's changed, because I haven't really changed. I'm still exploring it. There's a part of me that's scared of that, because that seems really dangerous. It seems like that could be really destructive to your life, like to go down a like thing of frivolous sexuality. And this is where like Jordan Peterson has some fucking great advice. Also, I'm older, and so it manifests in far different ways. It's just, for me personally right now, as I said, it's like dating. It feels like I've met this, and this isn't some incel thing. Trust me, if I wasn't here setting up I would, if and I was out, I will always chase that. I will always chase women and sex and things like that. This is it's kind of different. This is like it's like building a defense thing so that doesn't make me as susceptible as it has in the past. So I don't make fucking huge life-changing decisions for someone else. Like, maybe I'm going to try and make them for myself. And maybe the way that my mind, body, and soul needs to fucking make that is to actually create a girlfriend in myself. And that's what I'm kind of doing. And it's like, it's profound, I'm telling you. And it probably works the other way. It probably works for women. It's like, if you keep failing with men, find that guy in you and treat him good. Treat him good. Treat him good in every way. And it's, yeah, honestly, I've found she's really understanding. She's like, yeah, I put up with all those other bitches, but I just wish you would spend time with me. And yeah, it changes. Even that, it's like the defense, because like, no, you did everything for them. They just took you for granted. And it's like, that's amazing. It's amazing to find these little things. So yeah, I think the main warning though is like, it's just going to be pain. This is very painful. All of it's extremely painful. That's why the weed helps. And I think the earlier you start, and this is my main upset. This is why I'm so upset about my family, because I started this 8 years ago and I got shut down and put into a mindset that God knows how much damage that did. 8 years is a long time. And everything is built on that foundation that is wrong when I knew I was right. And that is the destruction that I believe mental health is bringing to families and to people in this country. It is interfering with self-adaptation to a very different environment. And there's almost no way now that you can keep up with any of it, because it's going to change, because it's so moving so quickly. So all these new stimulus that we get, it's all going to add to people's adaptations, and you cannot be a professional in that. It's like imagine you went down to an oval somewhere and you're like, oh, what's that person doing? He judges crickets on how they do backflips or something like that, and he's like commentating. It's like, you're a retard, you're a crazy person. You can't, especially with drug treatments or hospitalization treatments or labeling with conditions, diagnosis, none of this is going to make sense because all the adaptations out of these triggers, out of these stimuli are going to be all different. And yeah, it makes me laugh now because if I go in now, because it's the fucking topic of the thing, I could probably do whatever I want. If I went in and go, well, I think I've actually just been trans for fucking 10 years, which could be the case, Like 8 years ago, that could have been me. Like part of it, I was being like hypersexual. I got fucking treated as bipolar because my mother was bipolar. It's like I was hanging out with an old woman and it's like, that sounds a little bit, that could be either. So if I go in there now and go, oh, I'm transitioning and I don't know, I'm getting fucking treated badly by my family, they'll probably fucking send the SWAT team in. And this is where it's like, and that did do damage to me. So it's like, this is fucking tricky. I know from my own experience, I've been defending family because I have my own kids, and if they were taken away from me, that would be terrible. But on the flip side, I've had that happen by my own parents, by my own family. So it's like, fuck me. And this is where I find myself kind of nicely. I was like, am I just going to be perpetually on the other side of the fence arguing with everyone? And now I'm kind of like, whoa, I've come a lot closer on that fence than I thought I was going to. And yeah, sorry, I know there's a lot of filler in this, a lot of fucking add-on, but just, it feels nice to be in that position of not knowing. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I know there's certain things I know, like I know I'm not fully anti. I know there's something bigger going on, so I'm more open to questions. I'm having my own thing going on, so I'm going to be doing that and trying to learn from that and try and, to feel it out a bit more. It's very early. It's very early to even being even attempting to do this. And I suppose I just want to end on, no, it's not. Although, I was going to say, I'm not just jumping on a bandwagon and a trend, although if I was, I would say my largest contributing factor to do with that would be the fact that I was ostracized out of fucking society for not participating in your drug trial. And based on the studies of that, the people will do whatever to get back in. And so that whole trans movement could be that phenomenon just manifesting. If you keep using ostracism, trans is like the door back in. And think about it, it's almost like the old trope. It's like you get kicked out of a place and then you dress up like a woman and get back in. There's something in that. And I think it gets so much more everything gets more shocking if I was a woman. Everything. And I think just having that so that could be, even if it's an acting project, which I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm telling you, I don't know. Then that acting project, having that is like, well, yeah, I acted it out as a woman because as a man, I got thrown on the rubbish pile, and I can't live in a society that is getting 20-year-old men and thinking that they're going to be on the rubbish pile but in 15 years and saying that they're running a society based on that while women are fucking floating around. It doesn't work. And when I look at the demographics of men I went to school with, men got hammered. We got absolutely hammered. Not in the way that women are getting hammered either, by the way. We got fucked over by our own country. And it's the most offensive bullshit I've ever seen. And so if it takes me dressing up in a dress to make that fucking point to women, then I'll do it. Because it's like, honestly, all men, like we're all colours, races, religions thing. If we all grow up together, and it's like we will fight and die together. All of you, it's like you'll jump in whatever fucking car you go and fuck off to where. No, there's no loyalty. There's no fucking anything. But you've got all this freedom that you've moved so much further, but you haven't taken any of the responsibility that comes with that. And yeah, I think that is the dangerous phenomenon. Men have been dressing up as women for fucking thousands of years. Men have been having sex with other men for thousands of years. Women being this level of disloyal to their like this is it's astonishing. Like, it's astonishing how large that problem is and how dangerous that problem is and how to go about fixing that problem is crazy, because you're just basically the pattern that women are using right now is if a man stands up to you, kill them, attack them, and then only support men that are in alignment with you. And this is where it's like, say they're fucking trans, they're trans and they're allying with you because they're weak. Where it's like the real thing is like, it's not about that. These are fucking huge problems in society. And how many we have, so it's like we have Joan of Arc. That is the story of a trans woman or a trans man. And I think that right now we have the opposite as well. And I find that the females that are transitioning to be men, they're hitting this point of being like a teenage boy, and it's like no one's going to listen to a teenage boy. And so yeah, I think it just a lot of the effects are kind of reversed, and so we are seeing like Joan of Arc equivalents being men. Yeah, fucking long one. God, all I want is just some beautiful sun. The one thing, I'll end on this. The one thing that embracing this feminine side really feels like, and this is I'm sorry ladies, but this is a pretty big fucking deal if this is real, is it just feels fucking self-indulgent and selfish. And it's like, and then there's a thing of like, yeah, it does, because that's what they're all doing. And the thing is, it's like, it's cool that you're all doing that, but and I know I'm going to do it now because you fucking burnt me out and I don't care anymore. I do care, but I don't care I'm not going to sacrifice my life on the altar of your best life or whatever I have been doing. But I won't forget. I will not forget fucking men, and I won't forget what you are fucking doing and how bullshit that is. Because that has never been the way I've been going from. I've had good time. It's always like allotted. It's like, right, you do all this, and then you get that at the end. Whereas this, and this is like, it's like just all the time. It's like, it just feels, it's like, oh, what should I do there? Oh my God, I should do this. I should have my hair done, or I should do my nail. It's just constantly about that. All of it is frivolous. And then there's food every now and then, but it's like, it's a, and then if I start going into the thing of imagining that men were going to come and do things for me, that's absolutely ridiculous. If men come and do things for me, I pay them, or it's like, okay, thanks mate, I'll do the fucking time. Whereas women, if I think about it, it's like, then he's going to come and do this to me. And yeah, and all of it is bullshit. It's like the win. It's like, it's just no. It's kind of ending. I think you've got away with this for a couple of thousand years, and it's not going to disappear, but it's just going to take a little bit of a prune, which I'm not going to be doing. Although it does get in the way. I found there's different things I can do to free up my body. Anyway, I'm going to keep that in the back burner. So yeah, I'll upload this to YouTube. What weird times. If you have any weed, let me know. If you can hook me up and I will return the favor at some point.